my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious It has begun!
The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
It's time for the week's latest news in tech, gaming, movies, TV, and all things geeky. Welcome to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions for July 10th, 2014. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, also known as Drac, also known as the guy who has declared war on Michael Bay. So first of all, how's everybody doing? I know we missed last week, guys, and I know I forgot to put up a little post, but basically, to those who are interested, it was July 4th, and so we were all doing barbecues, and we were all doing fireworks and things like that. Now, before I actually introduce my panel here, since we are on camera, I would just like to do a quick show of hands from all the panelists really quick. Bring your hands up. All right. Okay, nobody blew up their hands over the weekend for fireworks. That is awesome. We do not have any maiming. It is confirmed. We are being joined by Stephen Romney. How are you, sir?
Well, pretty good. And as for any maiming, we'll have to wait for Aldo to get here before we can really confirm it.
That is true, because Aldo is going to be coming tonight, guys. So I know we said he was going to be gone for a couple of weeks, but we found out literally the next week that his schedule got readjusted. And so, unfortunately, he actually kind of made his way here and then found out we weren't doing our episode. But I'm also being joined once again from out of the shadows, the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You haven't blown up your head. We're not missing feet or anything like that, so fireworks...
Yeah, we still have our senses of smell, I presume.
For the most part, and we all have our eyebrows. So, I mean, all explosive devices did not kill us in the 4th of July. That is awesome, or at least maim us.
Yeah. Of course, didn't really launch any fireworks on that day, since most of the ones were launched the week prior when my older brother had his daughter, and so, yeah... The only person who actually got kind of burned was my 3-year-old niece, and even then it wasn't even that bad.
Safe to say that none of our houses burned down either.
That would actually be a very big
I think the only
plus.
thing that burned was the pizza I cooked, and that's it.
Darn it! You never want to burn pizza, but apparently we burned the pizza. Dang it. We'll have to fix this. But, yes, so the July 4th happened. We took the week off, and also there just wasn't really any major geek news because it was the 4th of July. Everybody was kind of focused on that.
And really the only film that came out that week was Tammy. And I've already made my statements about that film pretty clear on my channel, but that was literally the only major film coming out that week. That's kind of sad and disappointing.
Yeah, especially considering, I mean, like, wow, Will Smith had like a solid representation on July 3rd or 4th, didn't he? Because we had at least 2 of the Men in Black movies came out that week. We also had what's the superhero movie he did? Hancock.
Yeah, and did Transformers come out that week, or was it the week after that it came out? I'm not sure.
The original Transformers?
No, like the one that came out this summer.
No, it was the week before. Because it was June 27th, I know, because we were...
that's even more surprising.
The first Transformers came about July 4th.
Yeah, it came out July 2nd, and I think... Did the third one do the same? No, it didn't.
No,
I think it's probably they're kind of trying to replicate the effect of Frozen with how Frozen came out on Black Friday and then took the holiday, basically.
Pretty much. So, but yes, that's not why people are here. They're here to talk about some geek news, reviews, and opinions, because we're geeks and we do that.
Yeah.
And we've actually got quite a bit signed. I wanted to have another silly week, boys and girls, but news wouldn't let me do it. Because we have kind of a few things to cover. We are going to start things off with the Tech Hour because I do want to get opinions of this, and then we'll be joined by Aldo pretty soon.
Which he'll then end up in the hot seat.
Oh, he'll end up in the hot seat on a number of things. I mean, bottom line... Raccoons, exactly. I've actually set a limit on Alex. He is allowed to join if he is our Aldo, so he has to find a way to fit raccoons in every 4 minutes.
Raccoons and the Molyneux effect, I presume.
Exactly, something like that. But let's go ahead and get into our first story here. This one actually was kind of a shocker. It came out a few days ago. And so I've seen some discussion on it, but not a whole lot. But I did want to bring it up, which is the team that does Borderlands. They're getting ready to release a new multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA, called Battleborn. And unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot as far as details go for it. But this was supposed to be apparently an E3 kind of announcement, and they held off until now to reveal it. But it is from the team that did Borderlands, so obviously it's a well-known team within Gearbox doing it. But, I mean, overall, like, I'm not quite sure what to think of this, because MOBAs are slowly kind of overtaking shooters, in my opinion, at least in the PC scape, because you have to at least played one. Now, I must admit, I've never played one, but I'm actually looking forward to the Blizzard one that's coming out pretty soon, because at least that's going to teach me what to do.
Well, and my younger brother, he's obsessed with League of Legends, and I know that's kind of like the MOBA. That's
like, I mean, they just got their entrance into MLG and things like that. I mean, I just barely saw, like, Nike is sponsoring an LOL team, and that blew my mind. I mean, just, like, I knew MLG would happen at some point, but...
Are they going to be making, like, special gamer gloves? Nike is, like, the weirdest endorsement.
All I could tell you, Romney, was when I saw pictures of them, they were all, like, decked out in, like, those... I hate to say it, but it's like, you know, the velvet gym suits kind of thing, you know, the jogging suits. Mm-hmm. And so they were, like, all decked out in Nike. And so it was like the Nike jogging suit, the Nike sneakers, the Nike wristbands. I think one of them even did have, like, one of those fingerless gloves that's Nike. And I'm just like, dude, seriously.
Kind of reminds me of Sonic Adventure 2 when they struck that little sponsorship with soap, and Sonic was wearing soap shoes. And you had soap advertisements all over the place.
and we're, people on camera are going to be laughing because Romney's fighting gravity at this point.
Not just gravity, but
the
mic
does not want to agree with you. It's like, no, you've had your time, sir. You will not.
The only laws of physics.
The only comment that I could think on that one was I still remember the skater kind of talk that came after that, which is, dude, you rocking soaps, brah? And that's my only deal. But it just kind of blows my mind that now we're having yet another company enter the MOBA scape. And frankly, a good company to do it. I've played a good deal of Borderlands. I've actually a good deal through the campaign of it. And Borderlands 2 has gotten major acclaim. Enough so that they're getting like a pre-sequel, they're getting the series they're doing with Telltale. You're getting a ton of stuff. And so the bottom line is, if they were to walk into a MOBA scape, that might be worthwhile. Alex, I know personally you don't really play MOBAs.
I don't even know what MOBAs are.
Well, I just explained it to you, dude. It's a multiplayer online battle arena.
Okay.
Basically, it's hard to explain. I'll have to do it at the break while Romney continues to struggle with gravity. That's going to be the episode of this thing. Romney can't win against gravity.
Gravity, elasticity, physics is out to get me.
Exactly.
I shouldn't have insulted Newton.
You should not have, sir. You should not have. What is your take on this, Romney?
Well, I'm not too into a lot of the MOBA scenes. I haven't really even played a lot of Borderlands either, but
yeah,
it's kind of just one of those cases of, well, another company really jumping on the bandwagon.
It really just kind of feels like that because, like, you know, we were making the jokes a couple of years ago when somebody was making a shooter. Oh, you're trying to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, making a shooter or making an MMO.
Yeah, and so at that point, that's kind of what this feels like, but...
Yeah.
Gearbox has got enough of a rep that I think they could probably pull it off.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I think Yahtzee Croshaw kind of put it best when it comes to the idea of trying to jump on the bandwagon. Even if it is like decently put together and very well, after a while people are going to get bored and go back to the MOBA that they're already
pretty much
enjoying. And it's the same case with MMOs. Yeah, you may start a new one, but then you'll just go back to the one that you've put the most time into already. And
you had to bring up MMOs, dang it.
They're in the same basic
No.
genre,
The reason I'm laughing about that is because, you know, like, I actually had, like, this golden coin of being off of MMOs for, like, 6 months or so, and I went back. So,
yeah, you fell off the wagon.
I fell off the wagon again, but it was just kind of a guilty pleasure kind of thing, and missing some friends. But
yeah, and that's just kind of really what it comes down to is that, yeah, Battleborn may kind of have some bit of a fan base, but after a while, people will probably, because I know League's kind of the big main one, and so it's kind of the case people may go back to Leagues, much like how people go back to World of Warcraft.
I mean, that's kind of what happens when people join the bandwagon, so to speak. You know, if you're going to make a shooter, is it going to be the COD killer? If it's an MMO, is it going to be the WoW killer? In this case, it would be, what is the LOL killer? I can't get over it either.
Yeah, like, I mean, it just makes me think of like a guy who wears like a smiley mask like a serial killer who's.
This is how I found out about It took me forever to find out about League of Legends. I'm like, guys, what are you talking about? Laugh out loud, dude. I'm old, and so dude, League of Legends. I'm like, oh yeah, that does kind of spell out.
That's another drawing. The LOL killer.
There you go. The LOL. We've coined it, and now it needs to be on a T-shirt. The LOL killer. But we did get a reveal trailer for it. But I've watched it. It doesn't really tell us much about the MOBA so far. I think the real way that we're going to find out anything about this MOBA is when it actually hits beta stages. Which, I mean, right now Blizzard's getting ready to do that with Heroes of the Storm. So. At this point, it's probably just a wait and see for me, just to see if it's going to be a worthwhile MOBA to work with. And right now, I'm more interested in the new online game, Romney versus the microphone.
Romney versus the microphone, Romney versus the camera that keeps shutting off. It's been
a bad luck day, okay? I don't know what kitten or what black cats you guys paths crossed, but don't do it again.
The gremlins are out and about.
The gremlins are out and about. There you go. Don't feed them after midnight.
I shouldn't have kicked the gnome.
You shouldn't have kicked the gnome, even though I punt gnomes daily. So let's go ahead and go into our next story, because unfortunately Battleborn just doesn't give a whole lot for people. Let's go ahead and get into our next story, and we're going into Nintendo territory again, people, because we have to do that because we're Nintendo lovers. I still get letters every now and then saying, you guys are such Nintendo lovers. You have a Nintendo story every tech hour.
Yeah, so sue us.
Oh, well, I mean, what are you going to do? So this one came out a few days ago. First of all, I do want to go into this little detail that Alex actually caught, which was it's official. Iwata has been reinstated as the Nintendo president. Yes. So at that point, if people did not think that was going to happen, please stand on your head. No, Romney. No, I do not want to have problems with the mic again. What, you actually thought he wasn't gonna? Go back?
Just playing for laughs.
Playing for laughs. Okay.
We needed to have an Aldo moment before Aldo even gets here.
Raccoons.
Exactly, raccoons. So yes, what we got basically was, and for some reason I actually have two of the same link. I don't know why. Shigeru Miyamoto basically confirmed that because of the success of A Link Between Worlds, that they are considering doing, or he is working on a new Zelda 3DS game. Now, do we have any details on it?
Nope.
It's Nintendo. Do you really think we have any details on it?
Once again, stand on your heads if no one saw this coming.
Yes. Well, I didn't. I didn't think we would, because they're trying to set Eiji Onuma as the new person in charge of Zelda. So I was a little shocked when we saw that Miyamoto was going to be working on yet another Zelda title. I thought they were slowly trying to move him out of the door.
That may even be part of it, because given. And this has just been a common trend with portable titles not taking up as much time or as energy as the AAA console titles. And so even though they're still kind of edging Aonuma in, they may still have Miyamoto make some like portable entries, ones that are kind of on the side that aren't as intensive as, say, the Twilight Princesses or the Wind Wakers of the series.
What I'm also kind of wondering about that, though, Romney, is simply put, we heard a little bit about this new Zelda at E3, which to me, it sounds to me like a lot of the design and inspiration is coming from the original Legend of Zelda. So it sounds to me like it's, and people have even gotten into the theory of that this Zelda title is going to be very open world. Now, I'm not saying I disagree with that, but I have seen some people go, I don't know if we should do that. I think we should go back to the formula. A Link Between Worlds is kind of an arguing point to go into open world. Mm-hmm. Because, first of all, you don't get designated weapons in the dungeons anymore. You have to purchase them in the game.
Yeah, and another thing,
you also get your pick of the dungeons.
And another thing to really consider is that the original Legend of Zelda for the NES was already kind of open world. There was no set order to any of the dungeons.
Yeah, so
you could even get to the very end of the game without even getting the sword.
I mean, I've seen guys literally go through it without the sword. They went and did bombs against Ganon. That was insane. So at that point, I mean, I'll admit, I was kind of excited when they said that this was going to be an open world Zelda game. It seemed like it was going back to form. I just kind of don't get why people are kind of poo-pooing on that fact. Plus, it sounds to me like if Miyamoto's working on this, he may just try to urge people a little bit more towards how the open world would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's not so much that people are afraid of the open world. They're afraid of the Zelda series becoming a sandbox. That's probably more what they're afraid of, because that's what most people come to mind when they think of an open world. They're thinking of the sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto, Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs.
I'll admit, I was kind of concerned about that when I saw the trailer for it, but I don't know. Like, now that I think about it even more, and given what they're doing with or what they did with A Link Between Worlds, I haven't played it all the way through, but it just seems to me like it's a good idea overall. Taking Zelda back to form, especially since Miyamoto is kind of handing the torch over.
Yeah,
so we have to get used to another person's vision.
Yeah, another potential idea that might come out of it, given that it's jumping on the success of Link Between Worlds, given how Link Between Worlds was a sequel to Link to the Past, if the 3DS one's taking cues from the original Legend of Zelda, it might be what people have kind of dubbed the unmade third game in the NES trilogy that people have been hoping for. The one that kind of follows up with the Triforce. Because the first one, you get the Triforce of Courage. Zelda 2, you get the Triforce of Wisdom, and so then that leaves the Triforce of Power. And if they kind of decide to do it in a similar vein where it's a sequel to a pre-existing title, this might be the...
So you're saying, since we have a confirmed timeline, this would basically just be another game in that timeline.
Yeah, in the Hero Falls branch, because a lot of people were thinking that they were going to make 3 games that were in a chronological order. So
yeah,
I can kind of see them doing that, kind of revisiting the original design of NES.
That's technically what Link Between Worlds is it's... They've been finicky about it. They were hinting that it was a sequel to Link to the Past, and then they came back and said, no, it's based a couple of years after Link to the Past.
Well, it is. Well, it's based a couple of hundreds of years after it, but it is still very much the same world as A Link to the Past, right down to the way the map is designed. Mm-hmm. And even the portraits that you see in Hyrule Castle kind of confirm that it is the same world. It's just enough time has passed that the original... The previous Link has since passed on.
That might actually be a good idea, because the fallen hero timeline, or I guess that's what it's called, the Hero Falls, that seems to be kind of the way to go, especially if you're trying to reestablish vision before you start tackling some of the other timelines and the ones that people really appreciate. That would probably be the better idea to do. Although, in my honest opinion, I don't see a whole lot of stuff coming from those timelines anymore.
Well, yeah, I think it's because it's kind of really, they've taken it as far as they could go. I mean, with the adult timeline, the latest one in that one has been Spirit Tracks, since that's kind of the case of they found Hyrule, established it. That's where it is now. As for the timeline of the kid timeline, Twilight Princess gave us a little bit. We might be getting some of that with Hyrule Warriors, given that they're pulling characters from all the different timelines.
Yeah, but I haven't heard of I've heard back and forth that Nintendo isn't willing to confirm that it's part of the timeline, and that they are.
It's probably just more of a case of they'll probably go with the argument that it's just a parallel world that's a separate spin-off.
Yeah, exactly. It's just its own thing, which I wouldn't mind that, because right now it looks really, really good, and they just introduced 3 new fighters to it, so. I'll be interested to see what they do with it. Alex, what do you think about this 3DS Zelda game? He's the interesting one here, because he hasn't played Zelda. So at this point, he's not hooked on the Miyamoto like we are. He's not obligated to call him Lord Miyamoto anymore, or yet. We'll probably fix that at some point.
I have played Mario and Fairness.
Well, yes. Mario and Star Fox are the other game. So if he has at least played those, then he can still call it Lord Miyamoto.
Lord Shigeru kind of thing.
And I can even consider Pokemon, considering he produced that.
Well, he didn't really produce that, though. He had some influence that kind of kept it from getting canceled, but that's about it.
Well, he was a producer for the first 2 games, at least.
Yeah.
Right up to Pokemon Crystal, then, Tajiri was able to stand on his own 2 feet.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the...
Because, he was Tajiri's mentor, so...
So at this point, would this... I know you didn't pick up A Link Between Worlds. Mm-hmm. I know that you liked what you saw of the Zelda that got unveiled at E3. If this new 3DS Zelda game were to come out, would you be interested enough to look into it?
I'm interested, yeah.
Okay. That's all you got?
Yeah. I guess this is probably going to raise a few eyebrows, because Miyamoto's supposed to be getting on the verge of retiring, but I think...
he's never retiring.
Yeah.
Security's going to remove him before he retires.
It's not even just a security thing, but when you really think about kind of the cultural facets of the Japanese business world, yes, the retirement is a thing, but there's often even a case where, and it may be a bit of a stereotype, people may flame me for saying this, but Japanese executives tend to be workaholics.
Yeah.
There are some that even after they retire, they still get another job because they don't know what to do with themselves.
Well, and I think it's a different equation for Miyamoto, too, because I might be the only one who sees this, but it seems like when he started off, he wasn't that passionate. I mean, he had ideas, but it seems as he's gotten older, his passion is kind of magnified. So then at that point, I really don't see him walking away, not because of being a workaholic, but because he has such passion for what he works on.
Yeah. My prediction maybe is that he may not necessarily walk away and retire completely. He may, especially given kind of the news of Iwata's help, he may kind of get promoted and kind of end up becoming the head of Nintendo of Japan.
I can tell you on an international scale, there would be no problem with that because there's enough love for Shigeru Miyamoto that we would know that Nintendo is in good hands. Excuse me, sorry, it's allergy season, guys. But from a Japanese point of view, I don't know if he would be received all that well because he's a programmer. He's not a businessman.
True, but then again, that was the case with Iwata as well when he got started at HAL. So it's probably a case of that might be the type of role that Miyamoto may end up like in the further future when he's no longer making games, but may still have like maybe kind of a higher up position where he would still have like sway over the fate of the company. Really,
what is his current position? I know he's like on the board of directors at Nintendo, but does anybody know his actual title?
If the Nintendo Treehouse is anything to be considered, he is an executive producer. They have stated that.
He almost seems like he has the role of a chief creative officer, but I've never seen like
that would be my guess of where he's sitting because he's really the only creative mind that has been there since fairly the beginning. Yamauchi-san isn't there anymore, but even then Yamauchi got Miyamoto. And so at that point, Yokoi has passed on. I can't really think of any other major developers that have stayed there. Onuma's been there for a while, but he started under Miyamoto's wing.
Yeah, and he got on kind of during either the kind of NES, SNES years when he kind of joined the franchise. And again, him creating Zelda games not entirely weird because he did effectively create Majora's Mask. So,
and I also know he was kind of the Capcom consultant when they did Minish Cap. So, because he's usually the one that they ask stuff about Minish Cap for. The only other one that comes to my mind would be Koji Kondo, but
he's
a musician.
Yeah, so at that point, I don't think he'd be a creative officer. He'd probably be in charge of audio stuff. But
yeah, and even then, he could maybe even end up going the Uematsu route and just be
could go independent and nobody would care. I mean, he'd still be contracted by Nintendo to do specific scores. But yeah, it has to be something along the lines of like chief creative officer or something like that. But overall, I'm excited because obviously it's a Zelda game. Now it's handheld, so already I have kind of that apprehension, but Zelda is one of those few franchises where I do make the sacrifice and I will grind through it.
Yeah, and again, compared to, say, and this has kind of become the general consensus, the handheld games in recent years have definitely played a lot better than Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword, definitely a misstep on Nintendo's part.
I'm a Zelda fan and I'm going to speak bad about Skyward Sword, but I mean, I just barely completed it. And I barely went through the story, and my only problem is that the formula has ended up in tedium at this point. So what Onuma's willing to do, I actually applaud him for. Because at this point, I've loved the Zelda formula in the past, but Skyward Sword is the basic epitome of how that can go wrong. Because everything is in tedium. And in fact, if I were to describe that... And here's the thing. I love the story, guys. Gameplay, tedium. It's the only word I can describe it because everything seems forced. The dungeons don't even seem all that long, and don't even get me started on the sword controls. Don't even.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to become that old. I'm starting to become that old fuddy diddy who doesn't like motion controls. I don't like doing this constantly. But, oh well, that's the way I'm going. But in the meantime, we do need to take a quick break. When we get back, we've got more stories from the Tech Hour, and we may even go in a little bit into the Entertainment Hour. But in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the remaining stories of the Tech Hour, shall we? First of all, this one's just because I wanted to cover it, because when I saw it, it made a tingle to my eye.
There goes the microphone.
I'm dead, and now we have more gravity issues. I swear, it's like the movie Gravity. Do we have George Clooney around somewhere?
No, he already floated off in the distance a while ago.
And I can't remember her name now, and dang it.
Sandra Bullock.
Thank you! I was like, Sandra something. I saw her in the net!
Yeah, well, if we see Chris Hadfield heckling us through the window, we'll know.
All right, that works to me. So this one came out of nowhere. Like I said, one of the biggest things that was exciting to me at E3 was the announcement of Grim Fandango Remastered. Because that, when when LucasArts died, the thing that a lot of adventure games fans and LucasArts fans said was, we're never going to see any of our properties ever again because Disney's never going to want to do anything with it.
Not unless they can make a crappy animated series and toy line out of it.
Yeah, because, the bottom line is that even though Ron Gilbert and Tim Schafer have rights to these things, most of the rights went with that company. Mm-hmm. So at that point, when that got announced, we were all excited because that meant that Disney was willing to negotiate and willing to have that come out. They just want a royalty out of it, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we got an announcement from Grim Fandango. It's not PS4 exclusive, but I didn't think it was going to be. It's going to be PS Vita and PC as well. But the research that I was able to bring up was that Double Fine and Telltale are actually in works of getting other remastered properties out from Disney, and Disney has made it not open that they're open to it as long as they get the royalties, but they're willing to negotiate some of the LucasArts properties out of them as long as Disney gets its due.
Yeah,
so,
and that it sells.
Exactly. And so in a lot of cases, the big list that we saw from LucasArts before they went under might actually get realized. So we might actually see Day of the Tentacle remastered or a few of the other LucasArts adventure game franchises. I also know on the Sierra side, to people who are like King's Quest fans, there are fan adaptations and things like that, but I have heard that Jane Jensen's company, I think it's Pinkerton, no, is it Pinkerton Road? I can't remember, but she just barely did Mobius. She is going to do a remake of the Gabriel Knight series, which is completely hers, and there has been talk that they're working things out with who owns Sierra to get those properties to be remastered. So at this point, we might have actually seen kind of I don't want to jump the gun too quick here, but we may see a reimagining of point and clicks. We kind of have seen that already with Telltale, where they can do The Walking Dead and it's award-winning. The Wolf Among Us just barely ended. So at this point, we might just be seeing kind of a reimagining of point-and-click adventures.
And kind of a resurgence of the genre.
I would love that if that happened. The stuff that Telltale does, I'm not a Walking Dead fan, but I love The Wolf Among Us. So where I might not pick up every series, when I do keep my eye out for when those companies make announcements.
Yeah, because I know I haven't played much of the Telltale stuff, but I know I've had a good share of fun from their... And this title is long, like Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People. That one, I've gotten quite a bit of fun out of that, and it's kind of the case of that the genre itself is at a bit of an interesting point, because in the past you had like the point and clicks mostly to mask some of the limitations you had.
Yeah.
Nowadays, some of those limitations are kind of going away. Telltale's kind of gone down the right path with the various stuff like Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Lesser extent from what I've heard, they also had some of the same stuff with their Jurassic Park game. But,
yeah, Jurassic Park had a lot of issues, but I think after they got The Wolf Among Us going, they worked out a lot of those bugs, from what people are telling me.
And one thing I wish that some of these adventure games would come out for, and I can understand why they haven't worked that out yet because of the various issues, is that you think that some of the adventure titles would work well for the handheld consoles, since a lot of those titles are a lot like novels. I mean, look at both Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton. Those have pretty...
Well, and the way to look at it is that those games... I mean, here's the thing. We have, games like COD where you can get tons of hours in multiplayer, but most of the average games that are like Assassin's Creed or whatever, they're 20 hours plus. Adventure games aren't that long, technically, so they're fairly small when it comes to files. So if you stay digitally, it's not going to be like it's a horrendous download time. And that's one of the things I think is going to be a major perk with that. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's going to be a resurgence of the medium. And if it did it on handhelds, I actually think that would be for its benefit.
Yeah, because, even doing just the digital-only stuff, it worked really well for Capcom with the downloads for Phoenix Wright 5. And so,
yes,
again, it's just more a wishful thing. I wish they had more of those titles available since I have
Well, because of that, I think this was the only time where they were able to turn more of a profit than they actually thought they could. And the reason they could was because they weren't making the physical media. So at that point, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Romney. I think that's one of the main things they have to consider.
Yeah, because I know they even recently re-released Another World, which was called Out of This World back in its heyday. They released that to mark the 20th anniversary. So there is a market there. It's just more people kind of need to take advantage of it, but it's also, I think the reason they haven't is because it's also one of those genres that it's very easy to screw up unless you have all the pieces in the right place, because pointing and clicking can feel very tedious unless you have the mechanics working right and the right frame of mind.
Well, and the problem also is with that, the people who have been able to make it work are the people who have been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim Schafer, with him starting out in LucasArts the way he did, and then he went off and did Double Fine. A lot of people I know kind of criticize The Cave and Broken Age. I had some criticisms towards Broken Age. At least it just didn't feel to me like the money was utilized properly, but there's no denying Tim Schafer's good at what he does.
Well, yeah, then I've seen some pretty horrendous point-and-click adventure games made for other consoles. Like, off the top of my head, they tried like porting this one. It was like about like a murder mystery involving a millionaire that Nintendo was trying to throw a lot of money at to get people to download it. I can't remember.
Is it Murdered Soul Suspect?
No, that's not it.
Okay.
This was like back in, I was still in high school when this was coming out and about. It was part of like a line that was mostly known for PC releases, but
yeah.
The only other like mediocre point-and-click adventure I've heard that didn't really do that well was the Kate West Files, because it had kind of the same problems that a poorly made PC one had, except with the added difficulty of not having the mouse and keyboard sort of controls.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing to consider. When it comes to point-and-click adventures, the people who are solid fans, they look for the same names. They look for Tim Schafer. They look for Jane Jensen. They look for the people who have done these for years, and then they'll look into them. But when somebody I actually think this is kind of a downside when it comes to gamers. When somebody tries to get into the medium and they're still learning the things that Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert had to learn while making them, I think criticism has fallen a little too harshly with them at some points.
Yeah, and especially considering, because there was an extra credits video talking about how, and I'm not sure if hidden object games would count as point-and-click adventures, although some of them are designed as such.
Yeah.
There's also that kind of hidden demographic, because that's like one of the genres that a lot of female gamers tend to gravitate towards, and so that's where you get a lot of the hidden object games that are based around shows like Criminal Minds, for example. It's kind of in the same sort of thing where, yeah, like there's the hardcore gamers kind of like to use us as like a frame of reference for a stereotype.
Because we're hardcore.
Like they're the people that kind of rally around like the Tim Schafers, the Rob Gilberts, like the Monkey Island stuff like it. Then there's like kind of the unknown demographic that rallies around the hidden object games. Extra Credits really kind of explored how like what made those work and why a lot of people haven't tapped into those demographics as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited for this overall. I don't know about you, Romney, but I mean, first of all, I never played Grim Fandango, so I was already excited that this game was going to get remastered and I was going to actually be able to get my hands on it. But the fact that we're having kind of a resurgence of this medium, it's like my inner child has come out to play, because I really am excited about the fact I can finally show games to like my kids that I grew up with as a kid and enjoyed the heck out of it. Like, for example, Monkey Island. I enjoyed the heck out of that game, but at the same time, now that since there's a remastered edition, I can introduce that to my kids. And we are actually being joined live in the studio by the one, the only, Aldo Gomez. How are you doing today?
What's up, Suckerfish? I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm just really
first of all, show of hands, Aldo. Are you okay? Did we have an accident on the 4th?
No.
Okay. We did. Do you have your fingers? Do you have your eyebrows? Do you have all that?
Yeah. Well, I had to grow back part of my eyebrows. But that was not firework related.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm so happy to hear that. But let's actually get your opinion on this one, Aldo, because just to bring you up to speed, we're talking about the fact that since Grim Fandango got the re-release or the remastered announcement, and now we've expanded it, it's going to be coming out to Vita. It's also going to be coming out to PC. There's also been talk that, you know, one of the things that LucasArts fans were worried about was Disney was not going to be willing to negotiate for the old LucasArts properties.
Right.
And now this kind of has opened the door, and now we're getting news basically saying that the Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert may be able to negotiate more than that. They may be able to get some of their other properties as long as Disney gets their royalty. And so right now what we're talking about is that this might be kind of a resurgence of the point-and-click adventure genre, since it hasn't been around since, 96 or so?
And lesser extent, like some of the 2000s, because I know...
Some of the 2000s, yeah.
I feel like saying it's a resurgence of the point-and-click is a little bit over-optimistic.
Don't rip it down, Aldo. Don't rip it down.
I don't know. I feel like inadvertently, Telltale has such a monopoly on it. I really don't feel like it's really going to come back. I feel like people are either going to try and do it and it's not going to do well, or people are just going to not do it.
Yeah. Well, the problem also is that the people who are really good at it and can develop really good games have been doing it for a long time. So trying to get in there and being new, I agree with you, Romney. You get stuck on the CSI games or the Law and Order games, and you don't really get to stretch your legs.
Yeah, so I actually don't think we're seeing that much of a resurgence. I do think we will see maybe some remakes and maybe some reboots, stuff like Monkey Island, maybe the Sam & Max games.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's about it. And that's kind of me. That's actually me being optimistic about the genre. It's a genre I enjoy, but I never really got into it until I started playing actually the Telltale stuff. I played the Walking Dead, and I played a little bit of the Back to the Future stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's kind of a niche genre as well. It doesn't have such a huge, broad appeal as I wish it did. Because I do enjoy it. Because I feel like at that point, you're kind of treading Metal Gear Solid territory, where you're going to have people that because ever since Metal Gear Solid 4, not everybody is super deep into Metal Gear Solid because it's such a story-based thing, and and I think for the most part, a lot of the common public is either like, well, if I want a story, I'll binge watch 4 seasons of Game of Thrones or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, that is a viable issue because adventure games are pretty narrative driven, at least based on what I've heard.
That may be, since story is like a big deal of what I look for in games. That's why in a lot of cases I think point and click adventures have stuck with me.
Stuff like Uncharted has done such an excellent job, but they do walk a fine line with how cinematic they are. Whereas like Metal Gear Solid has completely bypassed that line. They're like, here's half an hour of cinematics and 5 minutes of gameplay.
But that is because he is Hideo Kojima.
Is Hideo freaking Kojima?
Well, he's got to keep breaking that world record for world's longest cutscene.
Pretty much.
I think at some point it's just going to become just a really long, command input for like 17 hours with 2 save spots.
Well, yeah, or maybe Yahtzee's prediction might even be correct. We'll just have one big button that just says resolve.
Pretty much. We'll have Mini Snake come in and do the puzzles for us so that we can just watch the cutscenes.
Or yeah, like maybe you push the button, and then it like vibrates for a little bit because of some sort of psychomantis thing, but that's about it.
My only comment is, you like Castlevania, don't you?
It'll just be like Metal Gear Solid 7, and it's just praying Psycho Mantis like in a waiting room moving objects.
It's just like, you like men. You can see into my mind? No.
Just your memory card. Let's go. I was actually going to do a backtrack into the other stories, but I don't think we actually have enough time in this hour, so we'll catch Aldo up and maybe get his input on some of these other stories later. But this one I actually wanted to get into because this has been kind of the week's story, which was that at the IESF, apparently, girls still have cooties, and they were not allowed to be part of the tournament. The reason I say that is because, and this has long since been resolved, but I guess the IESF, when they were designing their video game tournaments, did not have women in mind. And so at that point, they designed all these tournaments for things like Hearthstone and StarCraft and all that stuff for men. And then when women actually signed up, they had, and maybe Aldo knows the specifics of the games, but it was like Tekken and maybe a Street Fighter title, and that was all they had. That's all they could sign up for. So like the Hearthstone tournament, it was literally no girls allowed. I want to picture some little boy in his treehouse putting no girls in GURLS, no girls allowed.
No, GURLZ.
There you go.
I just tried to drink my microphone.
That's okay, because Romney's been struggling with gravity with his microphone.
The microphones have just been temperamental today.
They have, and I don't know. I don't understand why the microphone's not willing to give Aldo a drink.
I lifted up my water bottle. So, I approached the mic.
Before we go around the table, I will update for people. This has been resolved. The IESF has resolved it, and women have been allowed into the Hearthstone tournament. That was really the biggest beef that I saw that people had. They wanted to get into the Hearthstone tournament, and they couldn't. So at this point, this has been resolved. But let's actually go around the table really quick. Alex, what is your viewpoint on this? How no girls were allowed? Were you the person who put the sign up on his treehouse saying no girls were allowed?
No, especially if anybody knows me and knows I tend to be whatever. No,
I know personally that he'd have to answer to somebody if he did that.
Plus, yeah. So this is what. All I can say is, what the hell were they thinking when they said?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's games in general, gamers in general. We obviously face a lot of stereotypes, and
yes,
a lot of times video games get kind of pigeonholed as being stuff for boys, stuff for guys.
Yes,
and kind of the girls kind of get left out, and this is even true within the working industry too. There's not nearly as many women. And unfortunately, this is true across entertainment industry, period.
Yeah, and they're still fighting to have it so that women and men are paid the exact same. That's kind of where we are at in society.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even this is one of those things where I'm kind of wondering if MLG was involved, because I would like to see if there was actually a female gamer who was sponsored that tried to walk into one of these tournaments and was rejected, because that'd be a big deal if the big sponsor got rejected. Mm-hmm. Aldo, what are your thoughts on I'm sorry, I have to go for the Charlie Brown. No girls allowed.
I was actually just really bothered by it, especially when I read the kind of little press conference thing they released where they were going and because as much as I hate it, I get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about how in, major league sports, they are divided into men and women's divisions and conferences and whatever.
Yes.
So you do have the men's tennis, and you do have women's basketball, and you do have a separation of gender in these, big sports, these big sponsored tournaments that are.
And to some extent, I can understand that. I mean, there are different physical requirements, but at the same time,
and I'm getting to that. And the thing is, they're trying. Their intention is to legitimize the sport.
Yes.
As much as sport as you want to consider video games, I am a person that says, they should be a sport. If you can consider chess a sport, video games should be a sport. That's my opinion. I don't care. That's not the argument here at hand. But at the same time, you do have sports where there are men and women mixed in. I don't know any off the top of my head.
Aside from chess, maybe.
Aside from chess. All four women.
Debates or things like that. Yeah. I do consider a debate club a competition.
There are some physical sports where it is mixed.
Oh, no, I believe it.
Yeah.
And I mean, just in the recent news, you do have 14 and 16-year-old girls that are entering high school football because there's no women's football team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's cool and all. So my argument is the exact same thing that you were about to lead into, which that it's not a physical sport. There's no major physical difference between a man and a woman that makes a huge difference in a video game where you're sitting down and clicking
this is
fingers.
The difference.
This is the difference, and maybe these.
And maybe feed if it's DDR.
And I've seen some women with huge bottle cap glasses, so you can't tell me that they have better vision than men.
Dude, I've seen people who wore what looks like freaking steampunk goggles to these things just to do League of Legends, and it was insane to look at, and I'm like, okay, I get that he might have a special prescription, but he didn't need the whole face guard kind of thing to make it work. I think that was just kind of for a team aesthetic.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. And one of the things that really cracked me up was that it was saying that I think they said it would be demeaning for a male competitor to be defeated by a woman. To which my
over it.
So to which my response was first, he should play better if he's afraid of being defeated.
Dude, okay.
Second of all, I don't think that shows a lot of confidence in your participants if you're afraid they're going to lose. Period. If you're afraid they're going to lose.
That actually, I have to go into this because that is total actual crap. When Street Fighter 2 first came out for Super Nintendo, let's just say my older brother and a couple of other neighbor kids were really good at it, okay? Everybody here knows what a nuclear option is, right? My sister was the nuclear option in that game. If people had these long 20-win streaks, I'm not saying... my sister would even go out and say she's not the best of gamers, but she has this really weird good luck streak, and so she'd be the one to end these 20-win streaks. Yeah. She's the nuclear option. If somebody got too high, then they were playing my sister pretty consistently.
So did the arcade hire her for that?
This was at home when it came to home consoles.
I could see it if an arcade hired a person for that purpose to make them pay more coins. So,
but at the same time, it's also a thing where actually going back to Street Fighter 2 when that first hit, wasn't it and it kills me that we said this as a people. Wasn't it the embarrassing thing to get defeated by Chun-Li? Wasn't that the thing if you wanted to put the extra burn at somebody at the arcade?
Well, given that I was the kid who played Chun-Li.
Yeah.
No.
So I come from Mexico, where the male power thing is really big there. And
so
the
kind of more like
were big there.
So they're more into like the Zangiefs, the Guiles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not Guile.
No, not Kyle.
So probably,
although I have a feeling T-Hawk had a reception back then.
Oh, yeah.
So probably more El Fuerte then.
But
El Fuerte.
I love him. Anyways,
he's great.
So it really kills me that that was their excuse. Second of all, if you have female participants who are destroying or at least just beating these male participants, advertise that. That's more audience that you get. You get more guys that are interested in finding out who this girl is. You get more women that are interested, and they watch this and they're like, I want to know who this girl is.
It's not necessarily that it's a girl. It's the fact that they because I've seen some women trounce me at StarCraft 2. Okay, and they have the prowess to be, I think, in all honesty, to stand up against the Korean players. And so at that point, it's not necessarily that she's a girl. It's how on earth did she learn this game down to its detail kind of thing.
And so actually, just based off of personal experience, where I work video game testing. I do QA testing, and there are a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Where I work, actually not that many. I probably go 1-to-8 ratio of women to guys. But the thing is, so one of the people that's above me in the ladder is this girl who plays StarCraft, and she invited me to play a game with her online over the weekend.
Okay.
And I did, and I was absolutely, completely, totally devastated. I was destroyed. There was but a former shell of a man that had played StarCraft remaining in my office chair.
I love the description here.
And you know what? When I was playing her, I at no point thought of her as a woman. At no point did I ever go I'm getting beaten by a woman. I'm getting beaten by
you don't have the stunted pride.
Exactly. I was just sitting there going, I am getting destroyed. I am getting absolutely destroyed. And that's what it is. I mean, that's my opinion, is that especially in video games where you have like World of Warcraft, where you have a giant population of the female players are actually men. I mean,
yes.
At what point? Why are we judging? I mean,
no.
So that's my thing. So I feel like if you have female competitors, advertise that, push that aspect forward.
Exactly.
And not even just in the stupid cheesecake sense that a lot of companies try to push.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Romney, what is your take on this tournament?
Well, it's Aldo's pretty much hit all the points that I would have addressed. So because I think it is pretty ridiculous, because it kind of even goes into the same case that the whole idea of, we can't let girls gamer. I've seen kind of the effects of meeting some girls who are afraid to get into games because of the various, BS that they might have to put up with. I know that's the case with my older sister, and that's why she doesn't really play any of the major online stuff, because, a lot of the people are jerks, and they'll think, oh yeah, it's part of the experience, but it isn't.
Yeah, but a lot of those jerks are the same 12-year-olds that we won't go onto Xbox Live for. That's the other problem, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, it's the whole thing is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought personally it was ridiculous, and I think Aldo has kind of hit a lot of the details there. It's actually kind of funny. One of the podcasts that I follow weekly is a women gamers podcast. It's called Ladies of Elite. And I kind of like their opinion on a lot of these major deals, because they just get on the people's case. Like the IESF, they got on their case about this because it's absolutely stupid and asinine for them to not be allowed to not only have their own division, but to be able to be mingled in with the other ones. Alex, you had another thing to add?
Yeah, Romney brought it up on one of the previous topics about the sort of untapped demographic of women and things like these. He's right. They don't help.
No.
Yeah, and really, had a thought, but then I just lost it. Dang it.
And for me, it's one of these things where so the word feminism is like this weird slur word in the world of men, where we hear feminism and we imagine
we're not allowed to use it. We're not allowed.
Right, exactly.
That's the stigma.
So that's the thing. But the thing is, I consider myself a feminist. In fact, I even go so far, like when I talk to people and I'm like, I'm a feminist, and they're like, really? I'm like, well, not really. I'm an equalist.
Yeah, the term is egalitarian is the word you're looking for.
Don't you correct me, Romney.
That's my thing. I correct people. It's what I do.
Like to say for the record, this is the return of Aldo. Is that he's starting war against Romney?
No, I'm just kidding.
Don't you tell me what to say,
Correct me live on the radio.
It's like, don't you talk to me about grammar.
No, but so exactly. So I'm a that thing. I'm a Galvatron.
Don't you dare bring up that movie here, sir.
But yeah, so this is one of those issues that actually, that's part of the reason why I thought I was just hitting the bare minimum, but you guys were like, he hit all the topics. But that's because these things are really, really personal to me, because I have been a victim of discrimination and being excluded from things like that. Obviously not for my gender, but for different reasons, because of my race or just that type of thing. So to hear that women, in general, not even because of the race or whatever, are getting excluded from a sport where we complain that not enough women play, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
we're asking for a cookie.
Especially if you think about it from this demographic. Yeah. I mean, I play WoW. Okay. Yeah. My wife plays WoW with me.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons she plays it is because I kind of harped on her really hard about joining the WoW community. Yeah. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that.
Don't you correct him, Alex.
So at this point, well, yeah, he could correct me. But at that point, I know a lot of people who just sit there and go, I would love to get my girlfriend or my wife into this game. How do I do it? This is why they don't get into them.
Yeah, another issue is also that it also really shows a lot of the insecurities that a lot of male players tend to have. Yeah. Again, finger quotes for those of you listening that can't see it.
Yeah, well, camera.
But basically, it's kind of just one of those cases that if losing to a girl makes you feel like really bad or something, I think you may have some bigger issues you may have to be dealing with.
And
like maturity.
And to use an analogy, because I love analogies, it's like we ask for a cookie and we reject it because it has raisins.
I know, right? I mean, for a second there, I thought we were going to get another Molyneux effect coin term.
No, not
that we need to get on a T-shirt.
No, I love analogies, but it's like we're asking for cookies, and they give us chocolate chip cookies, and we're like, no, we wanted oatmeal.
It's like, no, we wanted M&Ms.
No, you asked for a cookie. This is your cookie. You get it, you take it, you enjoy it, and you're not afraid of the chocolate chips.
You guys you keep going back to my argument. That's when you think about the people who are tossing out this hate, unfortunately, they have a demographic to them. And unfortunately, they're not very, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Mature. So I'm sorry to all our young viewers, if we have any young viewers. I don't know if we have any, but there you go.
College radio, I kind of doubt
But
that.
in the meantime, we are actually out of time for the tech hour. So when we come, we're going to need to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the entertainment hour. And I'm not gonna beat around the bush here, boys and girls. We have some war to declare. I basically that Drac is North Korea and he's declaring war. But you guys are gonna have to wait about what that is. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues.
I aim to misbehave.
If you test me, you will fail.
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later.
Okay, look, we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. But I think we can put our differences behind us.
You thought this was over? But we've only just begun to geek out. Welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.
Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. So, welcome, everybody, to the Entertainment Hour. If you're just barely joining us, first of all, welcome. We apologize for not being here last week to the people who actually did kind of show up and go, well, what the heck, man? Why didn't you do anything?
Yeah, what the heck?
I know, right? Aldo, I'm so sorry, Aldo. But so we took the week off for July 4th, obviously, so we could go and do our barbecues and do all the various things that we're going to do, including blowing off extremities. But thankfully, we all didn't have a case of Sheldon Cooper syndrome and blow off extremities.
Celebrating the founding of our country by destroying a small part of it.
Why not? That's what we do. Anyway, so, we are here on the Entertainment Hour, and man, do we have a few things to cover. First of all, I'm being joined by Stephen Romney, Romney, how are we doing after this hour of madness that came out of the No Girls Allowed thing?
Well, I didn't get attacked by anybody who might have been listening while going to the bookstore, so
that's good. That's good. So we're not having the flames already. And then we're also being joined live by Aldo Gomez. Welcome back, Aldo. You were gone a couple of weeks.
We missed you
for a schedule change at work, and thankfully it worked itself out. So we can't go too much into that, but that's just because raccoons. Exactly.
They are watching.
They are. The raccoons are watching. And we're also being joined out of the shadows, which is actually kind of appropriate because he's in the light right now, by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you?
And senior anime correspondent, I might add.
Yes, you kind of are the senior, and you're also the senior Hideki Anno correspondent because you need to do the 6 degrees of separation.
Right.
So we got quite a few things to cover in the entertainment hour, but first... Let's go ahead and get into this because this blew my mind when I saw the announcement. First of all, to those who didn't know, there's a very popular anime by the name of Death Note, which came out a few years ago, I think. I remember when Adult Swim did its run, and they didn't finish, I don't think, because of the kind of the grim end that series has.
I'm dramatically writing a name.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, there was.
But you're doing it dramatically.
Yeah, like the manga came out. I think I was like in junior high when it was first teased in Shonen Jump. Then there was the anime. Then there were the live action movies, which
which were Japanese.
Yeah, which personally are kind of my favorite iterations of the franchise.
They were actually quite excellently directed, if I might add.
Yeah, because I was one of the many people that left the franchise when L died. I was just one of those people that he got killed and I'm just like, I'm done.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Romney, no.
It's been more than 10 years.
Yes, it has. The statute of limitations has run out.
Wow.
We're all old.
You're all very old, but you're not as old as me. So at this point, this was the part that threw me off. There's a U.S. film of Death Note that's going to be done.
Yeah.
I was a little shocked by this, and when I showed Alex, he was a little shocked too.
I think I recall hearing this many years ago, so I'm pretty sure this has been...
it's been in the works for a while.
In the works for years. It's kind of like there's been a few anime movies in the works. There's like the live-action Evangelion that's been planned by
the live-action Akira that people keep trying to make.
Yeah, that Leonardo DiCaprio says he has to be a part of.
And James Cameron wanting to make Battle Angel Alita.
Oh, and let's not forget the fact that like Michael Bay is like hungry for Evangelion.
Don't you dare bring him up! Don't you dare! We'll get into that later, but
it's a good thing that we keep him away from the gamma radiation, people.
That's gracious.
How do you know you've kept me away from the gamma radiation?
But it's one of those things, like, I mean, we just mentioned it. There's like this whole licensing pool of just excellent animes that are just getting passed around from studio to studio.
Well, I still remember back when there were...
Well, and I think still in the pool is like Dragon Ball Z, and there's still like the sequel to Avatar.
Yeah, because Fox has the rights to Dragon Ball. That's why we haven't been getting Battle of the Gods until this year.
Yeah,
because they're the ones that have to be offered.
So when I heard about this, I was all like, they have yet to give up.
Yeah, because I know like Rupert Sanders is signed on for the Ghost in the Shell live action movie.
Yeah, and then obviously there was that whole internet rumor of Keanu Reeves wanting to be Spike Spiegel for Cowboy Bebop kind of thing. But yes, there is a U.S. Death Note.
Mm-hmm. And personal to me, Sam Raimi's trying to develop noir, but that's been stuck in production hell for a little while now.
Yeah,
that's because Sam Raimi is pretty much now kind of being tied to the Oz movies now because of Oz the Great and Powerful. So
yeah, but in the meantime, so the biggest announcement that we got from it is that they have a new director. They have
supposedly it says rumored.
So Gus Van Sant, who I guess was the director of
Good Will
Hunting. He is apparently he's rumored to be signed on to be directing Death Note. He's going to be replacing Shane Black. So at this point, first, I mean, my reaction to this is there's a Death Note movie? I thought there were like 3 of them in Japan.
There were.
Yeah.
And
why can't we just bring them over?
Well, it's because the U.S. studios want the greenbacks.
Oh, they do, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like weird logic, because one other series that comes to mind to people who actually know the Parasite Eve series, the first one got a movie. and it came here, but it was subbed. So at that point, it's just like, why?
It's actually a really good movie. Actually, I enjoy the Parasite Eve series.
I couldn't watch it. The Parasite Eve already broke my brain. I mean, it really did.
I thought it was a good movie.
Anyways. No. I thought it was a good game, but it broke my brain.
Oh, okay.
So at that point, but it's just surprising to me that we have 3 film iterations. From what I've heard, they're okay.
They're pretty good.
Least. So at this
because
point,
the first 2 are mainly following Death Note. But the third one is just could be more or less considered a interquel spin-off, since the third one focuses specifically on L trying to solve a different case.
Yes, it's because a lot of people wanted the L backstory. In fact, I've heard that there's an anime rumored that is going to be kind of like an L prequel.
Well, yeah, then there was also the novel that also came out as well that was also a prequel that was supposed to tie in with the live-action movie, but tie into the manga as well.
Are they going to call it the prequel?
Oh, they totally should. Now that Aldo has said it, it must happen. Well, because I know that they did the one movie where it was like a sequel where it's like Ryuk going up and talking about his events or the events that happened and therefore getting a bunch of Shinigami interested. Well, yeah, and then they had the whole live-action adaptation of it.
And then there was the manga sequel as well, where it was basically Ryuk finding another user, but then the idea is that the existence of the Death Note becomes public knowledge by the end of the story.
Yeah. So at this point, I mean...
Yeah, I haven't seen Good Will Hunting, so I'm not...
I can already think that Alex is not necessarily excited because, well, Death Note is something he hasn't watched.
Yeah. And my Death Note experience is I walked in at the end of a screening, and it was, I guess, L facing off with some old guy, and he dramatically opens a bag of potato chips and starts eating.
Oh, yeah, you're thinking of Light, not L. Light's the main character. L's the detective trying to stop him.
See, you see how much I know?
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
And so actually kind of in the opposite end of the spectrum, there's actually news that I was actually excited about. Not because I'm super excited for an American Death Note, but the fact that they actually got what I think is a really good director for it. Because Good Will Hunting, in my opinion, is a fairly intellectual movie.
I'm a little shocked by that because I thought maybe it was just that they wrote it. I thought that Damon and Affleck were the directors.
And the thing is, like, even if it's the writer or the director, it's, in my opinion, it's a very good movie. It's a very intellectually based movie. And that's what Death Note is. I'm sorry, Alex is trying to grab the mic.
That's been the funniest part about this whole evening is that you guys are both kind of doing the grabbing thing.
Yeah, we have to do the mic grab because there's only and gravity and
microphone physics are against us this evening.
From what I do know about Death Note, yeah, I'd say Gus Van Sant is a pretty good candidate. If anybody was, if you weren't convinced by Good Will Hunting because Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote it, there has been rumors that somebody like William Goldman did a polish on it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think you could. I'm not particularly excited because I haven't seen Death Note, and frankly, there have not been a lot of successful anime to live action treatments
here in the U.S.
Here in the U.S. anyway, we had
and all the stuff that we keep hearing about isn't necessarily promising.
Yeah.
So
and I'm kind of excited for the same thing that we are actually having an actual director, an actual established filmmaker.
Yes.
Instead of either someone just looking for a quick cash grab or basically trying to make their own movie but tie it to a much larger thing. I mean, insert Paul W.S. Anderson joke, Uwe Boll joke, director of... Who am I thinking of? M. Night Shyamalan joke, or basically a lot of people. So it at least seems promising, because I remember hearing about the live-action Death Note back when there was like even the rumor of Zac Efron wanting to play Light in the U.S. adaptation.
Which I actually would be okay with that.
The only part
the news came about back when he was still doing High School Musical, so a lot of people were worried.
The only part that actually excited me about a possible, and back it was rumors. This is why I'm surprised that it actually is happening. Was that they were talking to the original voice of L that did the dub, because he was actually one of the cast of BSG, and he's really good as L. And I think actually he would be able to do a really good live action interpretation of him. But it was just one of those things of like, this is anime, and all I have to do is mention Dragon Ball Evolution to get everybody's spines kind of surging a little bit.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Evolution. And even when the cartoons are made in the U.S., we screw it up, like He-Man and Avatar.
So I want to bring an element into this to kind of to challenge your Dragon Ball Z argument.
Uh-huh.
Edge of Tomorrow.
True, that is
Edge
a
of
valid.
Tomorrow is a manga. It's not an anime, but
it wasn't actually a manga at first. It was a novel, but then it got.
I'm not saying that that's a permanent thing. You know, I've seen some stuff that's worthwhile. I mean, I will be the first to admit that G Savior is not horrible.
Exactly,
and I'm a Gundam fan.
I just want to bring up the fact that we can have excellent anime / manga / Japanese based movies.
Yeah, and admittedly, you know, to complement Aldo's opinion, there are anime series that probably would work very well for an American audience.
Oh, sure.
Dragon Ball's kind of not one of those. Dragon Ball's very much...
No, if anything, I would think something like Bebop would work because it's very American influenced.
I was actually thinking about that. I was actually thinking about why would...
Just no Keanu Reeves.
Right, why... No, well, like, my thing was that why would you use Shane Black for Death Note? And then I was thinking... Shane Black, I think, would actually make a pretty decent... I'm not going to say great. He would make a decent Cowboy Bebop movie, I think.
Biggest problem with the Bebop movie, though, is the budget, really. Because even back when they were first trying to get it off the ground, the visual effects budget was, like, through the roof.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I was tempted to say, oh, yeah, they should make, like, an Outlaw Star live-action thingy. But then again, they've already done that. It's called Firefly.
If anything, I'd even say Adam just got me into the series, which is Mobile Suit Gundam C. I think that would make a pretty good live-action series.
Yeah, actually, it has been. And it does have a live-action movie to it. It's just...
called Pacific Rim.
Well, that too. But there actually is a movie called G Savior, but it's okay. I didn't think it was anything special. That's the thing.
Yeah, but I think it's just nowadays we're getting to the point where directors, the people making these movies, are now a little more well-informed because now they realize that the consumers are more well-informed and they will call people out on BS when they smell it.
Pretty much. And they want the right directors in charge. I mean...
Yeah, to throw out one more director's name is Darren... I can never say his name. Aronofsky, yeah. He's played quite a bit of homage in his own films to the works of the late Satoshi Kon. So, I think he even owns some of the rights to, like, Perfect Blue, just so he could emulate one scene.
Yeah, Del Toro, even Tarantino to some regard.
I'm kind of glad you brought up Del Toro because he's kind of the one that people are bringing up now. Due to Pacific Rim, there's actually been rumor talking about that he has submitted ideas for both Sunrise as well as Harmony Gold to get rights to do either Gundam or Robotech. So
before we move on, can I just point out that like in the late 90s, Tarantino gave Marvel a script to do Luke Cage?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a reason.
So speaking of Marvel, I think really the Marvel movies have what allowed for this change of people being more informed about this sort of things. Because now we just have a case of, well, the studio has more control, and people know, like, well, if we screw this up, fans are going to know about it, and that could make things end up badly.
And also to go with the Marvel thing, I inadvertently brought up, it's also the fact that we, as a consumer audience, we've now realized that it's okay to have a man in a metal suit on screen for 2 hours. It's okay to have a Norse demigod on screen for 2.5 hours. Yeah. It's okay to have... what else is there?
You just have to have Natalie Portman run over him 3 times.
Or it's okay to now have a giant CGI talking raccoon in your movie for 2 hours.
Raccoons.
But
you just take the fun out of everything.
It's okay. It's okay to have it as long as we have Kat Dennings on screen.
Yeah. Of course, we still have a bit of a ways to go because one of the major concerns a lot of people still have would be the issue of whitewashing. That is still very much an issue. A lot of people have flamed me on my Edge of Tomorrow review for even mentioning that, but it's still very much an issue that we need to kind of work past.
And it's one of the issues that's been holding the live-action Akira back.
Well, I hate to do this, Romney, but I'm going to whitewash you. No, I'm kidding. But we have other things to go into.
I brought bleach.
Good, Aldo. Let's get him bleached. So the other story that I want to get into before the break is this broke, I think, Tuesday. Yeah. Where Pottermore fans got a sequel short story of what basically happens after the 7th Harry Potter book. And with movie adaptations like Fantastic Creatures and Where to Find Them coming out, the first question that came to the media is, will there be more Harry Potter books? Will there be more film adaptations? And then also, will the cast return? So I did want to get into this a little bit because it caused some speculation. I don't know if anybody here, aside from one person right over here, that is a Harry Potter fan. But, I mean, it's kind of funny that the media immediately went out on this and immediately confronted Daniel Radcliffe. And Daniel, being that he hates typecasting because typecasting's evil, he came out and said, "No, I'm not doing it."
On Wednesday, I got on my Pottermore and found it.
But you haven't read it?
No, I read it.
Well, then you're already one up on me. So.
I've looked into it as well, and I'm sure Aldo can probably confirm on this, is that J.K. Rowling didn't even necessarily write this to build up hype. It was almost kind of like she was almost satirizing real life, because, one, the story takes place, it's from the perspective of a gossip columnist who's covering
Rita Skeeter.
Yeah, who's covering the Quidditch World Cup final, which is in parallel because we are currently watching the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
And then it also is a kind of a parody of the media as well, because of just how of the media attention. It's almost kind of the very thing that's happened surrounding the story is the exact thing she has parodied.
And it's one of those things where Rowling has been very open about the fact that she does not appreciate how media blows everything out. In fact, one of the things in it...
No, I think she's even come out later on this story and chastised the media for it.
And one of the things, like one of the, I guess, satire elements that she puts in there is that Harry goes to this Quidditch finals by himself. Like his wife Ginny isn't there. And in the article, because it's written like an article, not like a story, it's written like an article.
Yeah, it's written like an article that Rita would
and it's
would write.
And they go like, well, Ginny wasn't there. Could there be trouble in paradise?
Yeah. Well, again, this is Rita Skeeter. This is a columnist for them. But I'm just kind of surprised at some of the media reaction that came out of this. And obviously, when the media gets involved, the interwebs gets involved and immediately go, "Oh yes, we've got new Harry Potter." But no, guys, you don't necessarily have them. I know just from reading stuff from JK, I don't think she's interested in doing it again.
Yeah, especially since he's still writing books under I don't know what the pseudonym is.
She's written under 2 pseudonyms now.
Well, yeah, but like specifically the pseudonym that was like the Cuckoo's Calling, she's been writing more novels under that pseudonym lately.
So at that point, I mean... And also, just going to Daniel Radcliffe, when we've already seen his stance on this stuff, of course he's not going to come back. He hates typecasting.
I mean, this is the reason he did Equus while he was still making the movies. He was trying to distance himself from being typecast in the first place.
So at this point, I mean, the media knew their answer before they even went out to ask.
And I think more than anything, it's a thing where if we do get more Harry Potter, it's going to be in the same fashion that... Percy Jackson got more books.
Yeah.
Where they finished the original story and, what's his name, Rick Riordan, came out with more books based on that universe, but not so much Percy Jackson.
Yeah, leading to like the Carter Kane Chronicles.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at this whole Fantastic Creatures and Where to Find Them.
And it's one of those things, because I actually have the original Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as well as the Quidditch rulebook, because they were on sale on Scholastic when I was like in junior high, I think.
Yeah.
And I have those books, and obviously they're nowhere near like an actual story. But I think if this sparks something in J.K. Rowling, I think we'll see more Harry Potter universe books, not so much.
Yeah,
Harry
she's not
Potter.
going to focus on Harry again.
Yeah, his story's, he's been through enough crap.
She said it. His story's done.
Yeah, and plus, even when you look at the story, it's like he's gone through enough crap. Do we really want to see him put through even more crap? I mean, he's already...
I mean, the one idea that I've seen JK kind of bounce around, and I like the idea that, which was kind of a year zero thing. It was going to be going more into the events leading up to Harry's birth and Harry's so-called fame kind of thing, where they were going to do kind of like a prequel book.
I've kind of heard the opposite on that, but this was from a Q&A years back, like really early, so she could have changed her mind.
Yeah. Although one thing that could work as the prequel, and something I'd be kind of curious to see explored, would be the relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, especially since the news about that kind of came out with the revelation that Dumbledore was gay. That's something I would definitely kind of like to hear about, given that Grindelwald effectively
wasn't relevant.
Wasn't relevant.
He's not gay. He's just British. I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, but it's just a case of there is.
Here comes the flames.
It's just a case of there's potential there for further exploration, but it's also another one of those cases of would we necessarily want J.K. Rowling holding on to all of it? Because I remember at a Comic-Con panel that was discussing the prevalence of fairy tales and kind of why they've endured so much.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's allowed them to endure so much is that they've been able to kind of go from author to author, each author kind of doing their own various spin on it. And a lot of people say that Harry Potter could technically count as a fairy tale, but it may not last as long because of how...
Percy Jackson could count, too.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there actually an author that's writing, actually kind of authorized, not official, but authorized Harry Potter kind of sequels? Because I think he's been writing like...
I haven't heard anything on it.
I believe... I remember hearing something about this about 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago. He was writing books that continued the Harry Potter story. They're not official. They're not published. But I do remember hearing about this because J.K. Rowling had officially given him a thumbs up on them.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything like that.
I haven't really heard.
I'd heard J.K. had been kind of a curmudgeon and didn't want anybody touching it. But
and I can understand like maybe that coming up because there was the whole Amazon thingy where you could effectively write fan fiction and sell it for money. That was something that came up in the past, but haven't really heard anything about any authors being given any official, unofficial, or official okay of any kind.
Let's just look at the bright side here, everybody, because, along with this story, we also got the announcement that Diagon Alley finally opened up in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
We all have a victory right here.
I'm not as excited, because, again, although I am a moderate fan, I only really followed the movies.
We're going to keep this to ourselves, because my wife would come and beat you to death.
Yeah, it's just case I only really watched the movies, never really read any of the books, so I've only had a kind of a passing interest. And it was I was loyal to the movies mostly because I just wanted to see how it ends, similar to all the people who paid to see Revenge of the Sith. It was kind of the same case of we followed it because we want to see where it goes.
Very much.
And
we were willing to endure the pain.
Then it's just a case of, given that I still have yet to set foot outside of Utah in any capacity, I'm just like, stop telling me about stuff I can't see. I'm sorry, Romney.
Rowling is writing the screenplay for Fantastic Beasts, isn't she?
Yes,
yeah,
she's involved.
Like Sujihara is also kind of signed, since Sujihara was the one who kind of pushed it. Yeah, she started on the screenplay. They're still in the middle of casting, I think, or like trying to find someone to cast.
I thought they just finished it.
Well, yeah, I know the casting is what's kind of become the major thing everybody's focusing on. People have been throwing names everywhere, like of who's gonna carry it.
They wanted Daniel to be in it.
Yeah, they either wanted Daniel or they wanted someone like Jude Law to play Newt Scamander and stuff like that. So,
yeah. But in the meantime, we actually do need to take a quick break. When we get back, we've got a few other stories to get into, and all of them, one of them involves another person that this show collectively has declared war on. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy as Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions continues. Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions right here on Radio SLCC, your online student source. So let's go ahead and get into the next story that we have for the entertainment hour. This is technically a tech hour story, but I figured since there is implications, and sometimes these hours are going to cross over, boys and girls, we needed to discuss this, which was, I didn't even realize that a new Alien game was being made called Alien Isolation. And apparently in its DLC, we're getting the first reunion of the original 1979 Alien cast. This is the first time they've come back to do anything or do things together as a cast. And there isn't too much on the DLC that we know of. They're basically two DLC missions. The second one specifically involves Sigourney Weaver coming back as Ellen Ripley. So this was kind of an interesting concept, and people were talking about it over the last couple of days that, this is the first time the cast has come back together since '79 when they did Alien originally, and kind of basically ogling over this concept, but also being very worried because, well, there's only three words that need to be mentioned: alien colonial marines, and already the problems kind of already come out of it. Aldo, did you know about this Alien Isolation game?
Yes, I've actually been following it quite a bit, mostly because colonial marines.
Yeah.
But the thing is, so the premise with this game isn't so much. So the premise with every Aliens game has been like, you can be the aliens, or you can be a bunch of dudes with guns and fight the aliens. Yeah, America. But,
even though it's in space.
Space America. Anyway.
Space America.
But so they've kind of realized what the problem is. So with Isolation, the idea is more of a true survival horror thing where most of the game is you.
Which is basically what the movie was.
Yeah, exactly. So it's mostly you, weaponless, against one alien on a ship in space.
Where no one can hear you scream.
Exactly. So the idea is that you're hiding from this alien. You're attacking it. You're trying to attack it. For the most part, you're hiding from it because you're inferior to it. And so it is more of a horror thing.
So clarify something to me really quick, because I will go on record right now and admit I've never seen any of them. Mainly because they've been outlawed in my family.
Okay.
So the first one was just one of them in a ship. Second one was them going to their homeworld. kind of thing.
I don't think so. I think
it was. I think that was the third one, because the second one. Like, the second one, Ripley basically was in cryogenic sleep at the end of the first one. Second one, she wakes up and then encounters, like...
I think the ship is full of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
The basic premise of Aliens, the sequel, is they return... that this is several years after the events of the first movie. So, since then, that weird planet that they landed on where they first found the egg and the face hugger, and which became the alien, the xenomorph... it's since been colonized by humans, and because this colony has apparently lost contact, and so the company, like I think it's Weyland-Yutani that was sponsoring it, they want Ripley to go escort with these Marines to go find out what happened, and of course,
gotcha.
Shit happens.
Okay,
I just remember the game over, man. Game over, man.
And so the best way to explain it is that Aliens 1 is almost like the Jaws, where you don't see the alien. It's kind of you fear what you don't see.
Well, this is...
Whereas like the sequel was, here's all these aliens. Like, you saw the first one, you saw how terrifying it is.
Well,
like, here's
the comparison that I would make would be Dead Space.
Yeah.
Because Dead Space has taken a lot, or I know that the directors of Dead Space have said that a lot of influence came from Alien.
So,
Dead Space, Metroid, Contra, a lot of video games actually took a lot of cues from it.
And so with that, with the idea being like the first movie is about the one alien, and Aliens, the sequel, is all about more aliens, more things. People thought that's what they wanted from a video game. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, you might be kind of right, but the thing is, we don't always know what we want, because we want that horror from Aliens, but we want like guns a-blazing.
Yeah,
the thing is, with the rise of like horror games coming back.
Well, isn't that where Colonial Marines failed? Was they tried too much to implement shooter aspects to it?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that is kind of an after effect of the moderate popularity of the Aliens versus Predator franchise, because that's what started the whole action-based thingy.
Which started Freddy versus Jason.
And so people have started looking at stuff like Gone Home, which isn't a horror game, but the aesthetic of it is entirely creepy. Amnesia, where you don't really defend yourself. All these like Outlast, or something like that,
or like Slender Man.
Yeah, like Slender. So they've seen that these games are popular, and it's pretty much Alien that helped create the idea and basis for these games.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds to me like you're very excited for this game.
I'm bored for this. I haven't seen the movies in years.
I've only seen snippets of each one's on TV airings. All I remember is like the forklift fight scene at the end of Aliens.
I have like a super old DVD of Aliens, and like I saw it once and like hid it away.
Apparently, I'm the dedicated Alien fan.
Well, that's another emblem under his belt.
Because, there you go. He's the official Alien correspondent.
I mean, I think just about everybody agrees that the first two Alien films are golden, that the sequels were never.
I'll take your word for it. I mean, I've seen pieces of them here and there, and the fourth one I've probably seen the most of, and that's the Joss Whedon project.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was.
Joss Whedon only wrote the script. It was like the director of Amelie who
it was that weird point in Joss's career where he was writing for a bunch of people, including Disney.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird to see.
And even then, the film didn't even follow the script as faithfully, because there were a lot of changes made during the production.
There were so many ghostwriters on Alien 3. It's and there were so many different writers in and out, and I think even J.J. Abrams also co-wrote it. So, and it is kind of like how Aldo said. The first Alien is much more of a horror film, much more of a slasher film set in space.
Yeah, it's even the case where you look at it in the character, the way Ripley acts in the different movies. In the first one, she's just everyday Joe Schmo, vulnerable sort of thing. Whereas Aliens, which was more action packed, they kind of made her more of a tougher.
They made her more of a badass kind of.
And Aliens was a James Cameron film, and he did that right at the same time he was also doing Rambo 2.
So let me actually expand this a little bit, since you're the official Xenomorph correspondent. Mm-hmm. Would you get this game?
Yeah, I'd get it. I thought about Alien Colonial Marine, but the reviews were pretty much blah all over
I got
it,
panned pretty soon.
I avoided Colonial Marines, but I would be willing to give this new game a try.
Okay.
Yeah. The arcade games are fun.
This is a game that, as a consumer, I would actually wait a week. Because I've been burned. I mean, we've all been burned by Aliens games. It's one of those things where I'm super optimistic, because I hear what they want to achieve, and I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And as a reviewer, I'll probably be picking it the week of. But as a consumer, I would probably wait a week to see what the reviewers say.
Yeah. What about you, Romney? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, again, I'm kind of in the same boat of like I'd wait until I see the reviews, because when it comes to any video game that's tied into any movie franchise, I'm always cautious because, like Aldo said, I've been burned. I haven't necessarily been burned by Aliens, but I've been burned by some pretty lackluster Star Wars games, and so I tend to be cautious about anything that ties into movies.
That I can understand,
but not Star Wars Pod Racer, right? Because that game was gold.
Well, yeah, the ones that the games that I got burned on were specifically the ones that were based on the movies. So basically, the Episode 3 game, the Episode 2 game, those are the games that I kind of got burned on.
Really, I thought the Episode 3 game was good.
It was fun for a little bit, but it gets old really quickly.
Yeah, it just felt to me like it could have been Jedi power battles, but in a sleeker engine.
Yeah, that the only reason I bought it was because of the rumored alternate ending in that game. That was it.
Which was stupid, in my opinion. But
it's been a while since I played it. But
so let's actually go ahead and go on into the next story here, because it's Zack Snyder, and as Romney has pointed it out, apparently we've declared war on Zack Snyder. Although it's kind of funny, Aldo's kind of the voice of reason when it comes to that.
Aldo is pretty much the voice of
Aldo. That's okay. You missed the merging of your names, where I just finally said, screw it, you're Alney and you're Romdo. So that way I don't mess up the names ever again. Let's go ahead and go into the last story here, which was, first of all, I need to clarify something. Yes, I know, at least right now I do, Jason Momoa is confirmed for Justice League. He is Aquaman, okay? I know, I thought that was rumor when I talked about it last time. I now know it. It's confirmed. All right. And this is something that I've gone into here and there, which is that even though we've kind of gone into this discussion that they won't do this, it's Warner Brothers. And I could totally see them doing it. Trying to bring in the new Flash and the new the Green Arrow, Stephen Amell, into Justice League to try and give ML. Trying to give justification to their series to go watch them. Now, Stephen Amell has come out and said he's not in it. He's not in Batman vs. Superman, at least. We also know that the Flash main character, he's not in it because they've been filming. So at that point, he has not been part of that cast. I still have my viewpoints on this, that they eventually will get brought in or they'll get a reference, because it's Warner Brothers. They want to refer to all of their stuff.
They're basically trying to copy Marvel.
Pretty much. So, and they want to have at least some kind of connection, even though you could justify a TV universe, a movie universe, and all that stuff. But overall, I did want to get into this. Yes, Stephen Amell has said this, but my opinion on the matter is, I don't care. It's Warner Brothers. It doesn't matter if Stephen Amell wants to do it. Warner Brothers will step in and go, you've got to do it.
Well, yeah, and especially considering that there was like the whole rumor a while back of how there was going to be some episodes of Arrow that were going to feature Nightwing. And there was like the various tweets of saying, oh yeah, like Green Arrow and Nightwing. Even though it hadn't been confirmed yet, it was like a picture of...
I still remember the hateful tweets from Dan DiDio. No! You will not use Nightwing! Because I hate Nightwing! Bless him. That's Dan DiDio.
I just want to say, when I heard this news, I was yes. All the way yes to like DC heaven and back, because so as much as I've been,
so you don't want Stephen Amell in Justice League?
Not at all.
Okay,
and it's not because I don't like him; it's because I love the man and I love Arrow and I love the Flash. It's been such an excellent series, such a great thing, and in my opinion, it's been so great because it's not held down by anything. They've gone so off script with what the original Green Arrow was and like everything, that it's become its own wonderful product by itself. And I actually feel that, unlike Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where that show only gets brought up, its status only goes up because of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
I feel it would be the opposite thing, where like Arrow would just get pulled down into the ground with its association with the movies.
I kind of agree with that. I don't think, where Warner Brothers would think that would be a great advertising piece. What happens if those movies tank?
Yeah,
exactly. And I think it's been doing such an excellent job. I was a fan of Smallville as much as like seasons 4 through.
I've been told to watch it, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
I recommend watching the first 3 seasons and then jumping to like season 7 and watching the Justice Society episodes and calling it good. Call it a day. You get attached. They did such a good job. It's not their fault. It got super drawn out. That's just what happens when you make a good product.
Yeah.
But sorry.
So what's your opinion on this, Alex?
Well, I'm kind of thinking, speaking of these sort of movie tie-ins, does anybody have any faith for the Gotham series that Fox is doing?
Not really.
I've got a little...
It's Fox behind it, right?
Fox,
yeah. It's airing on Fox. I'm kind of optimistic. I mean, the idea of following Jim Gordon as he's a detective, but then you've got, like, oh, it's young Bruce Wayne. Oh, it's young Selina Kyle. It's, like, young everything. I'm just like, you had a good concept.
Exactly.
And then...
I should have just kept them out.
I feel like they should have just, I don't know, taken the GCPD comics and just taken the script almost page for page on those, and you would call it good.
Yeah, but they were...
yeah, it's just we got to copy Smallville.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's like where Smallville works because Clark Kent has superpowers, right? We're all there for Clark Kent because we know he's Superman. I don't see the Gotham series working because...
It wasn't necessarily that he had powers, it was that he's trying to figure out his powers.
I guess,
because, I mean, there was that unbroken rule for the longest time: you could never fly.
Yeah, and
So...
with the Gotham series, you know, does anybody really care that much about Commissioner Gordon outside Batman?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
I like him.
Okay.
Yeah, I see potential.
I'm not saying he's a bad character. I mean, but
I've read some of like the noir-driven comics that take place in Gotham but don't really involve Batman, like the Ed Brubaker Catwoman trade. I actually have a copy of that trade, and the Slam Bradley stuff is actually pretty good.
I'm breathing a sigh of relief because we did have a discussion on another Catwoman last time, and I was afraid he was going to bring up a certain name he shouldn't bring up anymore.
Which one? There's like several. Oh,
Halle Berry.
No, I remember. I'm not going to mention it.
Thank you.
I already had to dodge a chair and a mouse. And... Okay. But yeah, it's just a case of the potential is there. I mean, a noir series that is set in Gotham, I can get behind that. But it's just the case. Literally, I saw the young Bruce Wayne. Okay, yeah, I can understand like Jim Gordon's kind of being the mentor thing. But as soon as I saw the young Selina Kyle, I'm just like,
that's where it went wrong.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think Arrow is doing so well because it's actually following the Smallville formula where obviously he doesn't have powers, but he is finding out where he belongs in the world and what he's doing. Because I mean, the basic arc of the first season is that he kills. I mean, he legitimately kills the bad guys. And he, at the end of the season, he sees what that's doing to not just himself, but to his family and the secrets that he holds. And the second season is more about juggling, you know, kind of his morality and kind of the price of his secrets and things like that. And it's doing such a great job expanding to creating a Suicide Squad within the show, not a separate series. They were going to just have Flash be its own thing, but the Flash episodes and character were so great that they decided to spin them off into their own series.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I feel like it's doing so well by itself, it doesn't need a movie. In fact, the movie needs it, which I hope it won't do it.
And I think this kind of goes into the underlying problem with Gotham as a concept, because Smallville, Arrow, we're focusing on the actual heroes, whereas Gotham, we are not. And so that's kind of why
I can't help but have the feeling that Gotham is really trying to ride on the Christopher Nolan coattails.
I feel like
as well as trying to kind of follow the stuff like True Detective and Fargo and those other shows that have been coming out as well.
I feel like Gotham would thrive only if it focused on the villains, and it would do a psychoanalysis on the villains. Yeah. With Jim Gordon as your guide. Not him as a main character, but him as your guide.
Well, even him as a main character could work if we say...
Where Bruce Wayne, we couldn't get the realizations, it would be really cool to have Jim Gordon actually try and figure this out on his own.
Well, yeah, and it could even work if you look at kind of what goes on in Batman Earth 1, where you kind of see, like, Jim Gordon's kind of used to the corruption, kind of plays along. You could even see, starting with the young Jim Gordon, you can kind of see the turn from the idealistic young cop to becoming effectively part of the problem, and then kind of having the end of the series show... how the arrival of Batman then prompts him to kind of go back to the way he was, and that's what they do in Batman Earth 1. First, Jim Gordon kind of goes along with the corruption, but after seeing Batman take out one of the key people, he decides, like, okay, there's a chance. I don't have to put up with this anymore. Let's arrest this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Alex, you had another thing to add?
I kind of lost my thought, unfortunately.
Oh!
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
That's totally happened.
Don't worry about it. All I can say is, it's riding the coattails of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well.
So, at this point, I would actually like to derail a little bit because there is actually a part of our title that we don't really go into anymore, which is Geek News Reviews and Opinions. And this is going to be kind of the way to end out the hour, which is we had a very big movie come out, and we actually were not here to comment on it. In fact, it wasn't out the last time we were together. So, Transformers Age of the Marky Mark. Let's go ahead and get into it. That's my little subtitle for everybody who didn't know that from our review of it, which was Transformers, Marky Mark gets his new Funky Bunch.
For a second, I thought Romney was ready to flee the room.
Yeah, he's like, Michael Bay, I'm not touching it. We saw what happened last time. Adam threw chairs. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
Bloodshed.
So, just as kind of a show, or not necessarily a show of hands, who has actually seen that piece of crap of a movie?
Well, you and I saw it.
Aldo, have you seen it at all, or?
No, but it's definitely in my queue to watch.
Oh,
I'm gonna give it a favorable review just to spite you.
It seems
There's another way, Adam. There's another way.
It seems your tone has changed a bit, Adam, since we did our review for the channel, for our Drac and Shadow channel.
Yes.
Yeah, because
my review hasn't necessarily changed. It's just, unfortunately, there's too much wrong with it in order to redeem it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other subtitle I have for it is Transformers: Age of the Angsty Prime, because that's really what we got out of Optimus out of the whole movie.
Again, Optimus is I said this in our review too. Optimus is justified. The humans have essentially turned their back on him, and they're now trying to kill him and his associates. So
you're justified in it.
You'd be pretty pissed off too.
You're justified in it, but at the same time.
So let me ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Did Marky Mark punch a person? Does he punch a man? Does he punch a man in the face?
I don't recall.
Yes, he does. Actually, yes, he does.
Okay. Is there a hot girl in the movie?
Yes, it's his daughter.
Okay, and do you see giant robots fighting giant robots in an incomprehensible, unviewable mess of destruction and carnage and dinosaurs?
Yes.
Then you got what you should have been expecting.
Actually, no, I didn't, because I was expecting... See, here's the thing. I even admitted in the review, although, that I checked my brain at the door, okay? Because I've seen Michael Bay go into, where he's giving you the hint that he's going to go into the Transformers mythos, and there actually is a lot there that you can go into. And then he totally blows me, or he totally blows me out of my expectations because he doesn't do his freaking homework and actually give me what I want. Oh my god! Yeah. I went over this argument. Okay, yeah. He doesn't go into it. He doesn't do his homework on the matter, and then at that point, I'm disappointed.
Hey guys, Adam here. So people might have noticed that the audio got cut off just a second ago. There is quite a reason for that. Unfortunately, around that point, and people might have also noticed we didn't have cameras going. About this point in the broadcast, the power went out at the radio station. So I know that people were concerned when we got abruptly cut off, and that's mainly why. The radio station lost power, and the only thing you missed out of that, obviously, you were telling that Aldo was kind of going into a giggling fit. When that happened, we just basically got a lot of Aldo saying, "I will not be silent!" And that's what happened. So, you didn't miss a whole lot. We did get some camera footage after the power was restored. Maybe we'll put that up as kind of a blooper, but that remains to be seen. In the meantime, though, I did want to go ahead and wrap this episode up so that we can get it up on YouTube and whatnot. If people want to get a hold of the show directly, there are a couple of ways to do it, and we'll even go into the panelists as well. First of all, you can go to geekyweek@gmail.com. Once again, that is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave feedback for the show as well as your opinions on the articles that we covered. And also, we would just like to hear from you guys if you're fans or whatnot. The other way to do so is we have a Twitter now, which is @geekynrp. Once again, that is twitter.com/geekynrp. And then also you can get a hold of the panelists directly. If you want to get a hold of me, Adam Mickelson, you can do that a couple of ways. First of all, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Drac2326. Once again, that is DRAK2326. You can go to my Twitter, which is under the exact same name, Drac2326. And that'll get a hold of me directly. If you want to get a hold of Aldo directly, you can do that in a couple of ways as well. You can go to twitter.com/Aldo531, or I believe he also is under the Twitter handle Board Offline, so you can go there to catch him on Twitter. You can also go to his website where he writes a bunch of articles, reviews. He loves doing reviews of conventions. So you can go to www.boardoffline.net. Once again, that is boardoffline.net. You can also go to his YouTube channels. First of all, there's his main channel, which is Board Offline. So youtube.com/boardoffline, where he will be putting up his own videos. and maybe even his own opinions. He's actually got some really good ideas coming soon for that. The second channel that he works for, that he does work for, is Anime Overdub ES. Once again, that is Anime Overdub ES. And I actually like this channel for many reasons. They cover like some anime that haven't been dubbed yet, but are also kind of rare and might not even get dubbed here, and it's just some very silly commentary. It's not like they're dubbing it like Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, it's that they're doing commentary for it. It's very silly, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. If people want to get a hold of Aldo directly, you can go to his YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Studio Phantasma, and that's Phantasma with an F, where you can catch all of Romney's reviews as well as any other projects that he might be going into in the coming months. You could also go to his movie pilot page, which is moviepilot.com/ROMNE. Once again, that is ROMNE. You could also go to his Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Romney's Reviews. That is all lowercase and all together. You do it any other way, you're not going to be able to find it. And finally, you can go to Alex, and he is the Shadow Blazer. He also has a YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/ShadowBlazer3000. He's an anime reviewer on there, so you can catch a lot of great anime reviews from him, especially in the month of June when he covered a bunch of B-Train titles. So I recommend that wholeheartedly. You can also reach him on Twitter, which is twitter.com/AlexJShort, and you can also reach him on Facebook under Alex Short. If you do that on Facebook, though, he does request that you please leave a message basically saying, I'm a fan of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, or I'm a fan of your YouTube channel. That way he knows. So at that point, if you can do that, good on you. But that is the best way to get a hold of us. But in the meantime, unfortunately, that is it for this episode. So for me, for Aldo, for Romney, and for the Shadow Blazer himself, we'll see you next time.